everybody? Welcome to the Takeover with your girl, Shay McCray here on FUBU Radio. And y'all know what time it is. It is Monday, and we are inside the room with State Representative Brandon McGee. How you doing, Brandon?
What's going on, Shay? What's going on? Yes, another week of Inside the Room with myself, State Representative Brandon McGee, where we always discuss politics, leadership, and culture. So Once again, I'm glad to be back.
Yes, and you have a guest with you.
But before that, I see that sun shining in Atlanta.
Oh, you
Georgia.
See the sunshine? Yes, it is shining. It is out here. And, you know, it's All-Star weekend just passed, so everybody's kind of like I don't know if they're on their way home. They need to get the heck out of here. So I don't know. I don't know what the numbers gonna look like. I'm dying to see what these numbers is coming back. But with that being said, we have a guest today.
Yes, we do. As promised last week, we talked a little bit about the coronavirus, the COVID-19, as we call it, and we have a special guest, one that I hold with high esteem. He is leading the way here in the state of Connecticut. But before we jump in, I just want to say this: as we memorialize the 1 year mark of the coronavirus here in the U.S., we've got so much to address regarding the impact it has had on many populations, especially communities of color, along with health disparities revealed and the long road to recovery.
It's been a year already?
Yeah, this month.
Wow.
When literally states across this country, across the world, shut down. And so, you know, today we have the distinct pleasure on this week's segment to interface and engage my man, 50 grand.
Yes.
He is Trinity Health of New England's president and CEO. None other than Dr. Reginald Eadie. So again, thank you all for joining me and gathering people from all walks of life to step inside the room in efforts to gain perspective on how we can educate and uplift our communities. So Shay, I want to jump into this thing.
All right. Well, I would like to welcome to the takeover, Dr. Reginald Eadie. Eddie, how are you?
I am excellent, Shay, and it's a pleasure meeting you. I'm a little jealous because you're in the Sunshine ATL.
Don't be jealous. It's a lot of people outside with this, so you might be a little bit safer place than me. You know, when the sun come out, everybody else come out. You know how that go.
I do.
But Dr. Eadie, before you jump in, I need the world to hear this though, and I need our listeners who are listening throughout the world to know who you are and your credentials. So really quickly, and I'm not going to read your entire bio, but I want folks to understand that you are qualified.
Yes.
So Dr. Reginald J. Eadie, he is board certified in emergency medicine and has 20 plus years of healthcare experience that includes numerous leadership roles, obviously CEO of Trinity Health, but he's been the chief operating officer, chief medical officer, just to name a few. And we're so delighted to have him here in the state of Connecticut doing the great work that he's doing. I can continue reading on, but this man, he hails from South Carolina, isn't it? Or did you attend South Carolina State?
I went to HBCU, South Carolina State, yes.
I was about to say, Brandon, let the man just introduce himself. Brandon, as we can see, Brandon speaks very highly of you. We can see,
absolutely.
First and foremost, let me say it's a pleasure to join the both of you. I think this is going to be a dynamic conversation, so I'm super excited. I'm originally from Detroit, born and raised there. My parents are from the Carolinas. South Carolina State has been our family school, so I too went and graduated from there, went back home to the D, to where I did my residency in emergency medicine, did medical school there as well, got my MBA at Michigan State University. And as the representative said, I've been bouncing around through the healthcare space. I'm an example of a dream coming true. I think I was in the 7th grade, Ms. Phillips, when I announced that I wanted to one day be a hospital president and a physician, and all my classmates laughed. That was the moment I decided that I was going to prove Mrs. Phillips wrong. It turned out that I ended up taking care of Mrs. Phillips right before she passed.
Whoa.
In the emergency department while I was working. I visited her every single day. And, I proved to her literally on her deathbed that, kids are special piles of clay that can be morphed into anything that their mind desires. I'm an example of that. And I'm sure that when she went on to heaven, she somewhere around as an angel supporting me, because we taught her that people from communities of color can also do whatever their minds put forth to accomplish. So
Dr. Eadie,
let's get into
Dr. Eadie, that's my story too. I do it for the people that doubted me, and that's why I'm here. I appreciate the love. Trust me, it's bringing me far, but I do it more so for the nose. So I'm with you on that one. Yes.
So Dr. Eadie, you're here for a very specific reason, and to help us really unpack COVID, coronavirus, the mistrust many communities have with the current sort of list of medicines vaccinations that might be available. Could you just quickly, can you quickly just unpack for us, where we are we're a year from when this all started, and folks were scratching their heads in terms of where do we go from now? And now we're asking communities of color to take advantage of these vaccines. It's for you. You should do it. What would you say to skeptical folks who really are just like, I'm not for it, I don't care about it? And quite frankly, if we did talk about the history of implicit bias in medical care, I can talk about the Tuskegee experiment. I can talk about several other experiences in the Black community. So can you help us, can you unpack for our audience where we are from your perspective as you lead our advisory committee here in the state of Connecticut?
Yeah, so our very first case in this country was in the state of Washington. One single case confirmed, one death confirmed. 1 month later, we were up to just over 5,000 deaths. And then by April, we had peaked in our, what I call the first surge. And then you fast forward to the second surge, and let's think about sort of how this happened, just to sort of unpack it, if you will. So we knew that as of October 31st, people will be gathering, right? So we knew that from Halloween, and then we went to November, Thanksgiving, went to December, Christmas, and then New Year's Eve, then New Year's Day, then Three Kings Day. We knew we could forecast a lot of this stuff. We know so much more about the virus and the details of this pandemic as opposed to what we did not know early on or during Surge 1. So we had Surge 2, which peaked higher. The curve was much wider, meaning that it lasted much longer. And I don't need to tell your audience, we have got 3,000 to 4,000 people dying every single day. Now, in order for us to get to any degree of normalcy, that is, stop the social distancing, remove our masks from our face, and get back to whatever the new norm is going to be, we've got to reach something called herd immunity. It's important for the audience to remember what herd immunity is, first of all. Herd immunity essentially means, remember when your mother or your grandmother, when one kid in your classroom or in your family had the chicken pox. What they were doing when they forced you to play with those kids or to go to school and get chicken pox, they wanted to create herd immunity. That is that when the majority of people, we think for this pandemic, it's about 80%. Herd immunity means that the vast majority develops an immunity to a particular disease. Again, we think for this pandemic or coronavirus, it's about 80%. So kind of keep that number in mind. Now, so knowing that, there's two ways to reach herd immunity. The ultimate goal is to reach herd immunity so people can stop dying at a rate of 3,000 to 4,000 a day. There's two ways to do it. One, remember the prior administration and a leader there said, don't worry about it, it's just gonna poof, go away one day. Nonsense. That what he was talking about.
I'll say it, number 45. Anyway, keep going.
What he was talking about is there's one way to reach herd immunity, and that is the way we did with chickenpox. Just let everybody get it. But when 3,000 to 4,000 people a day die, and when the majority of people proportionally are brown and Black communities, that's just not the way we want to go. So for those that are skeptical about the vaccine, keep that in mind. You're really supporting, in my opinion, that previous leader's notion about how to reach herd immunity. The only other way to reach herd immunity quickly and safely is through a vaccine. Now that's literally sort of the light in the tunnel. This is the way we get out of this mess. This is the way we cease and desist the number of colored people, or I should say people of color, the number of people of color that are dying at a much higher rate than any other community. It's through the vaccine. So then people have skepticism. I don't like to call it hesitancy. And let me just be real clear for your audience why I don't use that term. Because when you tell somebody they're hesitant about a medication that will save their lives and their family members' lives, what you're doing, in my opinion, is you're blaming them, and then you're justifying the systemic racism as to why we won't make this vaccine accessible to a certain community. So, when people think that there's some racism behind the vaccine, just think about it. Go to any vaccination center across this country or across this world, regardless if it's in your community or mine, the people in line getting this vaccine don't look like me and you. So therefore,
no, they don't.
It must be something okay about this vaccine. So we can talk about quality, safety, and efficacy, which I'm sure we're going to get into, because we've got 3 vaccines on the ground right now, and I can talk about ad nauseum all 3 of them.
Well, hold on, Dr. Eadie, before you get into the vaccines,
you guys are getting me excited here.
That's okay. I know you talked about it really kind of attacked the African American community, but isn't it because of health factors that they didn't in the way of life and the way they were
pre-existing conditions?
Yeah, pre-existing. That from what I know, what you got, majority of men don't even go to a doctor, so they never know half the time they have these existing problems. Is it that's the reason on why the deaths are higher in those communities?
So if you want me to keep it real, I'll keep
it.
I want you to keep it 100.
Yes, keep it 100.
No, that is not the reason. Let me tell you.
Really?
The only pre-existing condition that we should really be talking about is called racism. So it's not hypertension, it's not diabetes, it's not obesity, it is not your skin color, it is not your fault. The reason why, check this out, and Brandon, I know Connecticut now, just like I know Michigan. When you think about the Highway Act of the 1960s, when you talk about redlining, when you talk about what created the so-called ghettos of the Black and brown community, it's because of racism. It's because the policies that were put in place many, many years ago that cornered us into a certain area in relationship to an expressway where we had no place to go because we couldn't afford the mortgages. I'm sorry, let me take that back. They wouldn't give us access to the mortgages.
Woo,
Thank you.
There we go. Better choice of words.
So therefore, they created these neighborhoods for us on our behalf. And it's not a coincidence that in 2020, when we peaked at the pandemic, those same neighborhoods became the hotspots. Because by design, systemic racism, whatever you want to call it, this is the reason why people of color are dying at a higher rate. It is not our fault, it is not our genes, it is not the comorbidities. But if we want to talk about a pre-existing condition, let's just talk about one. That's racism. And I tell you, when we go to our physician's office, and I'm a doctor, at some point we need to keep it real with ourselves and the people that we trust to take care of us. What are your pre-existing conditions? Racism. That should be our very first response. And if we accept that, then everything else we want to talk about, like diabetes, like high cholesterol, like unemployment, all those social determinants of health, then we can have an honest conversation with ourselves. And until then, listen, pandemics have been in our communities since the day
forever.
We were born. And
That's
so
right.
the Great Depression didn't impact us. And now we're talking about lives here. We're not talking about hardship. So that's why I'm so passionate and emotional about this. Because if we don't get this and get this right now, there's going to be another pandemic within 100 years, and we're going to see this mess all over again. And I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Well, if you're just tuning in, we are talking to Dr. Reginald Eadie live, and he is dropping the mic. Shay,
yes, he is. Racism, it's funny that you even say that because, let's do this. Let me take a break and come back because we're going to talk about how some of us just tapped in with the oppression, because of the recent oppression that has taken place. And I will be honest with you, myself as well. If you have never experienced racism, you don't know. So you know what? I want to talk about these other vaccines that's available. So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue on with Dr. Eadie, okay? All right, you guys keep it locked. Don't go nowhere. It's your girl, Shay McCray. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Take Over with your girl Shay McCray here, and we inside the room with State Representative Brandon McGee. And I have to first do a public apology because I'm just saying this man's name all wrong, Dr. Eadie and stuff. I know he like, my name not Eddie, it's Dr. Eadie. You gonna give me two last names, Dr. Eadie, Dr. Eadie. I got it. Yep. I got you now. So it's like Dr. Eadie. So I wanted to correct that because my co-host didn't want to do that on live. You do know you could correct me, right? Because I'm gonna correct you.
We'll do that. We'll do that inside the room. But again, welcome back. And if you're not following me, make sure you follow me on Instagram, Spotify, Twitter, all of the social media platforms, and just search Inside the Room with State Representative Brandon McGee. But I wanted to quickly jump into this idea or this comment that Dr. Eadie made with respect to racism. And throughout this country, all states, municipalities, towns have declared racism as a public health crisis. And I think it is very important for people to understand through that lens that this is indeed a crisis. And to that point, myself, alongside the Speaker of the House and others here in the state of Connecticut, are moving from declaring to really incorporating equity, inclusion within the many policies that we're passing through the state legislature. But I kind of want to throw it back over to you, Dr. Eadie, to continue on this discussion of the different types of vaccines, perhaps even, some of the side effects, because I've heard all types of horror stories on all of them. But if you can just unpack that a little bit, that would be helpful.
Pleasure. So first of all, thank you for that work, and for whomever you're working with, please high five them on my behalf and the behalf of the citizens in the state of Connecticut, because I think the very first step we need to do is to admit that we are in the midst of a crisis, and it's primarily because of racism. So to declare racism a public health crisis is admitting the misbehaviors in the past of this government.
Well, I've got to give shout out to Dr. Takesha Everett and the entire Health Equity Solutions team over there, really doing the yeoman's work on this. So anyway,
that's a bad sister right there. That's my buddy. So, all right, so let's jump in. So currently, I don't need to remind you guys, we've got 3 vaccines on the line, hopefully soon to have 4. We started with Pfizer and then Moderna, and I'm going to group the 2 of them in separately from Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca, which we think we'll have within the next month or so. So first of all, the only reason why we were able to produce a vaccine so quickly, because that used to be the #1 cause of any type of concern or anxiety, is because there was a technology, Shay, called the RNA technology. They were using that for probably almost 10 years now, but in the cancer space, coming up with a vaccine for cancer, coming up with a cure for cancer. Clearly, they've not finished that work. But when the pandemic hit, we had an abnormal number of people dying, because that's the #1 cause of death, remember, in 2020. 2020 was the most deadly year we've ever seen in America, and January of this year was the most deadly month we've ever seen in America. So this is real. I'll say so.
When they don't mean to interrupt, but didn't they say that more people die from the flu then, or is it because of within a certain amount of time they died? Is that what it is?
So people die every single year by the tens of thousands from the flu. Now, I've taken care of a number of people who've had the flu. I've not really seen a number of people die to that degree in my practice for the last 25 years. So the flu is real, and I'll kind of circle back to the flu in just a second. So on average in America, it takes about 6 years to produce a vaccine. The flu vaccine, it took about 10. They produced this in less than 12 months. The reason why is because they had to do something quickly. So I just want the audience to know they didn't skip a step. They didn't jeopardize quality, safety, or efficacy when they produced this. Because of this RNA technology that they were using in the laboratory for the cancer, they shifted and used it to produce a vaccine. So they weren't starting from scratch. They weren't reinventing the wheel. This RNA technology, the way it works, and I'm gonna try to make it as simple as possible. The way it works is, you've all seen the illustration of a coronavirus. It looks like a circle with these spikes protruding.
Yep.
So let's say the spike is my arm, and then the end of the spike is my hand. The way the coronavirus works is when you inhale or ingest, that's the purpose of the mask. So when somebody tells you don't need a mask, that's nonsense. When it has access, and this is the majority of weight, and I mean greater than 95%, you get infected through your nose or your mouth. And again, that's the reason why the mask works. So the coronavirus, that protrusion, that spike protein, that arm and hand, What it does is it grabs onto your cells, it punches a hole, and it deposits this is the coronavirus, it deposits its entire RNA into your cell. RNA looks at the genetic code so like the instruction manual, your mother and father gave you half each. It reads that genetic code, and that's why you're the height you are, the skin color you are. The RNA does the work. It makes the skin cells, it makes your hair cells. When corona deposits its RNA into your cell, you make more coronaviruses. It hijacks your cell. So that's how you go from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, 16, 32, etc. If it takes over the nerves that are responsible for smell, you lose your smell.
Wow.
Taste, you lose your taste. In your lungs, you get short of breath, you can't exchange oxygen, you need a ventilator, and those are the people that die. So that's how the virus works. How does the vaccine work? Well, they were smart scientists. They took this so-called RNA technology, they took a coronavirus to the lab. They took the RNA, the entire strand of RNA out of the coronavirus. They isolated because if you put the entire RNA strand in a human, you're producing an entire coronavirus. So they took the RNA strand, they found out what part only produced the spike protein, and they took that out of the coronavirus's RNA, and that's what they inject into you. When I say they, I mean Pfizer and Moderna. So when I got my Pfizer vaccine, I had 2 of them. I'll talk about my side effects. So I knew they were injecting only a part of the RNA that's responsible for producing the spike protein in its hand into my body. So my cells were hijacked and they started producing spike protein. So now I've got a bloodstream full of spike proteins. Your brain looks at that and says, that's foreign. So you make antibodies to the spike protein. So they don't work anymore. So that's my first injection. I get my second injection, and then when I get my second injection, my brain says that looks like coronavirus because they see that spike protein. And then you get those side effects, which are worse in many cases than the first. And I'll talk about that in a second. But now I've had 2 injections. I've waited the 14 days after both my injections. I have antibodies in my body to the coronavirus. So if I get exposed through my mouth and my nose, the real coronavirus, when the spike proteins of the coronavirus try to grab onto my cells, punch hole, and deposit this entire RNA into my cell, my antibodies are going to say stop. It has an efficacy of 95%. So that means 95 out of every 100 people who's gotten the Pfizer vaccine, while they still may get infected, just the 5%, because the other 95 cannot. I may still get infected, but I will not get so sick that I'll have symptoms, I'll need to be hospitalized, and I won't die. So the mortality
that's the difference
affiliated with the vaccine is 0. And let me tell you something else. The efficacy for African Americans with Pfizer is 100%. So
I plan to take the Pfizer, I can tell you that
I
much.
just need to tell you that. Now, so then there's Moderna. Moderna works exactly the same way, and it's really a mirror of Pfizer. So they're basically the same vaccines. Let me just end right here with Johnson & Johnson. The difference between Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and Moderna is they took a virus. Now, this may sound scary, but you've had the flu vaccine, and all of you.
I've never.
But everybody's had measles, mumps, and rubella. So it's the same technology. They took an actual virus, they weakened it, then they used the new technology, the RNA, then they put the RNA inside of this virus, and Johnson & Johnson AstraZeneca used the adenovirus, which causes the common cold. It's not a problem. And then they inject the virus inside of you that has the RNA inside of it, and then it goes through the same process. You produce antibodies to the spike protein, and that's how you develop immunity. Of course, Johnson & Johnson is a single shot. Pfizer and Moderna are 2 shots. Pfizer is 21 days apart. Moderna is 28 days apart. But other than that, they're very effective. And this is the only way we can reach herd immunity and the guaranteed way we will not die from coronavirus. I'm going to take a breath.
I want to hear from Shay. That's all. I just need to hear from
because there are a couple of things that's on my mind, for one. And again, I just want to thank you for being here, Dr. Eadie. And if you guys tune in, we are sitting here talking about the vaccine, the coronavirus, and what's the best way to tackle it for herd immunity. Now, with that being said, some of us, like myself, have never taken the flu virus. What in your body are automatic? If you're saying that we remove masks and start being in the midst of things so we can create herd immunity, wouldn't our body produce that? Them antibodies. Antibodies without the vaccine? Some of us, like, I mean, because you're saying it's
so in other words, if we're already healthy, why are we injecting this stuff in us in order to fight?
Because we're already going to produce antibodies.
So your body only produces antibodies when there's a foreign substance in your blood. Otherwise, it won't do it. So breastfeeding is important, for example, because when a mother breastfeeds a newborn, everything she's been exposed to, all the viruses, bacteria, all the antibodies she has, goes through her breast, through the milk into the baby, and the baby has the mother's immune system until she weans the baby off. Now the baby has developed its own immune system. So unless you've had the coronavirus, you don't have antibodies. But here's the important thing. Even if you've had it, and I need people to take this home with them.
Yes.
Even if you've had it, someone's saying, well, if I've had it, I already have antibodies. I don't need a shot to produce them. Here's the problem. What we know now is that people are getting coronavirus for the second and third time because their antibodies that they produce to the coronavirus starts to decrease over time.
Yeah, because I hear you only immune for 5 months, 6 months. Because my uncle had it, and that's all he keeps saying. I'm good for 5 months. Like, dude, you don't know that yet.
So tell your uncle to cross out the 5 months and just use 90 days.
Use 90 days? All right, I'm gonna let him know.
And that's why Dr. Fauci says if you've had corona before, let other people go, schedule your appointment for 90 days after you were diagnosed, because we know they're gonna last for 90 days. Longer than that is a stretch. So Uncle needs to get his appointment, get in line and get vaccinated, unless Uncle may be one of those 3,000 to 4,000 people a day that have an unfortunate outcome when they get corona. And Sister Shay, you're doing so much amazing work. It would be a sad day if I was back on with the representative and you weren't with us because you pushed back on the vaccine. Listen, remember, God create. Check this out. Let me just say this. I know it's your show, but this is my personality.
No, we're gonna do this.
Listen, God created the laboratory and the scientists for times like these. Yes, He did. And remember, there were African American women who were in charge of the production of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. And let me tell you something else. I think with so many of us dying every single day, if we're gonna really push back on what's safe and what's not, let's talk about fried food. Let's talk about pork. Let's talk about pop.
I don't eat
Let's
it.
talk about
I don't drink it.
Let's talk about
I don't smoke.
Whatever you ate for dinner, Shay, and you don't look like a farmer, so I'm gonna take a stretch. Whatever you ate for dinner, you don't know
what's processed,
where it came from, really what's in it. You probably didn't read the menu. You don't know if they changed the dates of the expiration dates in the supermarket. You don't know all that. You have this inherent amount of trust, and that's why you ask God to clean the food before you consume it. Why don't we take that same, whatever you call it, into the space where there are vaccines?
Because Dr. Eadie,
whatever you do to trust the food, if you come to my house and eat, you have no idea what I did to that food.
Because Dr. Eadie, listen.
This is the most transparent this country has ever been for medication.
So Shay, now you see why.
I got one more thing to say, and I promise you.
Wait a minute, Dr. Eadie, can I just say this?
Not till I say this. Check this out. I take a blood pressure medication every single day. If you ask me a question, so don't ask, tell me how that blood pressure medication works. I can barely remember the name of it. And my PCP is a friend, and we decided on this medication together. I cannot give you a 15-minute explanation on how that medication works. I can talk about the science of these vaccines and the coronavirus for hours without interruption because I've researched it. I research it every single morning. So I'm very confident and secure, and I would have never, ever taken the vaccine or convinced my mother to take the vaccine if I didn't think it was the best thing to do. So I prayed to God, silence me and strike me down if what I'm saying to people is not correct. And it has not happened yet. So I believe that this is the best for us as a people to do. Get in line, get vaccinated, and let's take this energy to address all the social injustices and the systemic racism, because if not now, then when? And if not us, then who? And if not this, then what?
So Dr. Eadie, what are you going to tell the people who haven't even taken the flu vaccine?
Well, I haven't taken the flu vaccine.
I've never taken that.
And I won't. However, I am going to take this shot because I don't know, I've been convinced even reconvinced during this conversation on the importance of doing so. But if you want to respond to that, please.
I'm 50, yeah, I'm 50-50. I'm 50-50.
I will never, ever spend time researching. Literally, I wake up around 4 a.m. I start researching the newest and greatest information on this pandemic and the vaccine. I've never done that for the flu vaccine. I will never do that for the flu vaccine. But let me just tell you, the flu vaccine has an efficacy of 50%. That's why Dr. Fauci said early on, if we get a vaccine that just has an efficacy of 50%, I'm good to go. Listen, the efficacy here for Pfizer, according to Pfizer, not Eadie, has an efficacy for African Americans of 100%. Moderna is north of 95%. And then Johnson & Johnson is the high 80%. Now, one may look at Johnson & Johnson as if it's inferior, but let me just quickly tell you why that number looks lower.
Highly recommended by the CDC right now, but go ahead.
And if I could do it all over again, I could probably get the Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah.
Real. But the reason why the reason why Pfizer and Moderna have a higher efficacy number than Johnson & Johnson is only because Johnson & Johnson was put up against the mutation, the UK, South African. So it brought it down a little bit. Remember, Pfizer and Moderna was not tested for the UK at that time. And so they're going to be releasing the new number, the new efficacy, now that they're testing against the variants or the mutation. And I'm pretty sure it's going to land around 85%. So they're all very equivalent, a little different science to some degree. I tell people, just take whatever's in front of you, but take it as quickly as you can so that you can live a longer and healthier life just as God intended. And
all right,
Sister Shay.
Listen, I appreciate you. I appreciate the passion. I'm not gonna lie. You made me thinking about this thing. I said thinking about this thing. That's that's a start. You know what I'm saying? So
well, at least now you're thinking, because before it was
I am
hard
thinking
no.
Before it was like, no, don't talk to me. If I gotta fly, I'm not gonna lie. If they took my flying privileges, I'll probably be first one in line getting the vaccine. I'm not gonna lie. I love to travel the world. So I do know that there is conversations in reference to that. I want to thank you for the passion that you have given us to educate us on why we should do this. And I know I joke a lot, and all jokes aside, I understand now, and I'm able to get the gist of it, because myself being a believer of that, okay, why should I inject myself with something that is not needed and I haven't had it, or if I did, I don't know, once again, I'm someone that's never had the flu shot, and so many other things. I never even had the chickenpox shot. I did get chickenpox. I was one of the ones that was put in the room with my sister, ended up in the hospital for 3 weeks with chickenpox. So I understand. So when you talk about herd immunity, I'm sorry, I don't know why I can't get this. Yes. Immunity, but it's like, immunity. I get it now.
Ask me to say, what's that peanut? Pistachio.
What? Pistachio? Pistachio?
So we all have our words, is what I'm saying.
Yes, humanity.
Let me add this on before we close out.
Yes,
and I usually start off
time's sake.
Yeah, I usually start off with a quote, and I really want to read this. And I took this from an article from the Washington Post titled "The Pathology of American Racism." And basically, the title, or at least what the article was intended to say, was the pathology of American racism is making the pathology of the coronavirus worse. Yes. And that was authored by Stacey Patton. My commentary on this, McGee's commentary, is that Black people are at the mercy of everything that is flawed and dysfunctional about America's healthcare system, which has long been shaped by racism. So it's just an under sort of lining of what the good doctor has shared with us earlier on in our conversation. And I, again, like to echo my colleague, Shay. Thank you, Dr. Eadie, for the work that you continue to do, and your commitment to educating us in a way where it's not combative, but you're saying, I hear you, I understand you, but let me help you to understand why. And
you're breaking it down for us a lot better. And
this is so important. So again, I thank you for joining us inside the room.
Yes.
And really breaking this down. Dr. Eadie,
thank you so much.
Yeah, yes. I love the close. So, yeah, so everything you both just said, to summarize this experience we had, which I enjoyed, and I wish we had a lot more time, it proves my point. When we have conversations with people that look like us, that think like us, that have ethnicities like us, meaning cultural ways of doing things like us, and you provide the explanation the way they deserve to get it, and then you change their mind so they start thinking about, like, Shay, that's not hesitancy. That's a sign and a symptom of poor communication otherwise about this pandemic, about the coronavirus, and about the vaccine. And the more I talk to people who think like me and look like me, because for some degree they will trust me just because of my phenotype, because of the way I look. Saying something.
I was gonna say from who it comes from too, but in defense of the past, you got to think about what they gave us. They gave us nothing. I knew about coronavirus in December. The people heard about it in March. Like, you got to think about the information that was given. So yes, they are skeptical about the information now. However, whoever's delivering, like yourself, based on your skin, is more reciprocated. So I get it. That's true.
Perfect. And your show is creating another venue by which we can get that message out, so that we can get people vaccinated and put this stuff in the past. So thank you all for the work you do. And if I'm ever invited back, I'll make myself available, because this is important stuff. Plus, I want to be down with the two of you, because you
listen. Obviously, when that second shot, you coming back after the second shot.
I'm gonna record my first shot and let people know, the importance of it. And I'm going tomorrow, so and then I'll do the second one. And
when is your second shot, Dr. Eadie? You already took it?
I've had
my took it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Cool. Okay. Listen, so we'll have to bring back maybe when I take the shot.
From coronavirus. Period. I'm good.
Period. Well, Dr. Eadie, please let the people know how we can keep up with everything you're saying. Where is this information? So we could get a little bit more. Follow your message as well.
So listen, everything I'm doing it in partnership with Representative McGee. So following his social media presence is my advice and my recommendation. He knows how to contact me. I'm at your disposal. I'm talking to the entire planet.
Oh yeah.
But like Moses, there's a special need for people that look and think like me. So I got you back. I will be there as needed. And if I don't know the answer, I promise you I get it within 24 hours.
I believe you, Dr. Eadie. I got confidence in you right now. I think I might call you right before I get ready to take the shot. I don't know. I might need some words of encouragement. Forget the
Send me a
message.
Plane ticket. I'll come and stand in line with you, Mr. Chase.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you. You guys keep it locked. Don't go nowhere. It's your girl, Shay McCray.